It is a book. It's now available in Spanish, actually. The idea is to understand how censors did their job. So the title, Censors at Work, is meant to indicate the purpose. The purpose is to understand censorship as it was actually practiced by censors on a day-to-day level, and then to relate that to the larger surrounding context of a political system, a cultural system, etc. So it involves long, detailed research in archives concerning 3 authoritarian regimes. So this is comparative history and really ethnographic history, because I'm inspired by ethnographers, anthropologists who go to the field and try to understand what they call the natives' way of thinking. I treat the censors as natives and am in dialogue with them. Now, the 3 regimes are 18th century Bourbon France, 19th century British India, and 20th century communist East Germany. So they're 3 completely different political systems, each authoritarian, and the idea is to get inside them and to understand censorship as an ingredient of a different political culture. So my argument is there's no single particular thing that you can call censorship, because it's always an element in a political system. It's, if you like, a relativistic view of censorship, but it's not one that simply says censorship isn't a threat to freedom of speech. Quite the opposite. But the nature of the threat, I think, needs to be understood. So I'm trying to get at an understanding, not simply a condemnation of censorship. Well, I'm dealing with only the censorship of books and literature. And that, of course, is quite a different enterprise from the censorship of newspapers, television, the internet, etc. Now, the advantage of dealing with books is partly the documentation. The kind of history I try to write involves long hours of research in original sources. What's interesting is you can actually come across memos exchanged by censors in which they're talking about their way of working in these 3 different societies. And in the case of East Germany, I actually met some censors because I was in Berlin at the time of the fall of the wall. And I had friends in publishing who offered to introduce me to some censors. And before I knew it, I was actually in their office discussing the way they did their work. It was utterly fascinating. Well, of course, people say all the time, we live in an age of information, as if information did not exist in other ages. Information always existed, and the media determined the way it circulated. But I really believe we are living through a revolution every bit as great or greater than that in the time of Gutenberg. So libraries have to keep up with the technology, and the main challenge, as I see it, is to share their intellectual wealth. They are magnificent repositories of the cultural heritage of humanity, but most human beings never set foot in the libraries. The libraries have basically been reserved for a small, privileged elite. Now, thanks to modern technology, the internet, etc., we can digitize our holdings in the great research libraries. We can bring them all together in what we call a distributed system. In the case of the United States, we have more than 2,000 institutions, mainly libraries, who are now sharing their digital collections, and they're all integrated in this new kind of library, which we created only 4 years ago, not quite 4 years ago, called the Digital Public Library of America. Its ambition is to make available, free of charge, the cultural heritage of the United States, not just to North Americans, but to everyone in the world. And we think we're getting there. Yes, I think it's crucial that it link up with Mexico, with Latin America in general. It's hard work, you know, because you need to have the correct technical infrastructure. And we've spent a lot of time designing this and making sure it's compatible with aggregating systems in other countries, especially Europeana. But I think it's succeeding. You know, it's not impossible to do. What you need is the money, the collections, and the will, above all. I think we have that. None of it's easy, but we are getting there little by little, and I hope that Mexico will be a firm collaborator of this international enterprise.